Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews, it's your number one source. Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up? Episode 202, Sports Card Nation. Hope everyone is doing great. I just did another card show here in Syracuse. Did fairly well. I'll be doing a review of that show on Monday's Hobby Quick Hits. Great guest today. One of our sponsors, but that's more coincidence than happenstance. Ben Smith from Midwest Box Breaks, and not your typical breakers, right? Doing some different things, giving extra value to the service, and building a community. And this is a guy that loves the hobby, loves people. And we're going to talk about the hobby. We're going to talk about things we'd like to see improve. We're going to talk a little bit of life, which is always fun as well. And, great conversation with Ben Smith. And we could have talked a lot more, right? But great guy. I think you'll really appreciate him when you hear the interview. So without further ado, let's get this show underway.
Hey, John, you want to have a catch?
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Sup everyone, it's Brody the Kid. Always remember, the hobby is the people. Peace out.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Are you a new sports cards collector or someone returning to the hobby? Maybe you're just looking for a friendly, trustworthy hobby community to hang out with and enjoy collecting. Midwest Box Breaks has been bringing collectors together for many years with affordable breaks, helpful threads, and a Discord group packed with generous people who genuinely care about the hobby and other collectors. Check out the breaks at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. Also, find us on Twitter at MidwestBoxBreaks.
Hey folks, John here. Just wanted to remind you, use the discount code MBB10 for 10% off your first order at MidwestBoxBreaks.com. Happy to have my next guest on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. He's from Midwest Box Breaks, one of our great sponsors. Glad for that. And finally have him on here. Mr. Ben Smith, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Excited to be here. And everybody in my group, once they knew I was coming on, said to tell you hi. So well-respected member of the hobby community. So it's an honor to be here. Well,
I appreciate that. I think that tag can be worn by both of us. So I'm glad you're here. I guess, it's the standard podcast question, but, it's your first time on the show. So for those listening that, kind of how you got into your start in the hobby. We're going to get into Midwest Box Breaks and how that was formed, but you yourself, as far as your start in the hobby, kind of how that all came about.
Well, like a lot of people I meet, I'm in my 40s and I collected back in the 80s as a kid and got my first pack in 83. And I remember I had a Tony Gwynn and I think a Jesse Barfield. And at the time, people were more excited about the Barfield. But collected for a few years and then stopped a little bit, graduated, adulthood took over, got out for a little bit, jumped back in here or there. Never really got rid of all my cards, but just kind of put them away. And you know how everybody's been through this. Life kind of goes front and center and the cards get pushed to the back. But came back for good in 2017, about 5 years ago, and started talking to some friends who collected, and they told me about breaks, and I got exposed to that, and here we are. So I've been off and on been collecting for a long time, so I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah, well, we get to pick whatever dinosaur we want to be because I'm right there with you. And it's funny because we're I think I'm a little older than you, but I opened my first pack at 79. You mentioned 83, so now 4 years off as far as start wise and stuff. Um, it's crazy, and I've said breaking has really saved the industry when it was kind of down and wax was not selling at the pace we now know it does. Breaking in that niche really kind of saved the hobby, saved companies, or maybe saves too strong a word, but definitely helped business to boom and the hobby to boom. And I don't know if I'm sure you remember too, if you would have told the younger version of me or the younger version of Ben, like, hey, you're going to buy into what's called the break. Someone's going to open packs for you on the screen and then send you, if your team or your player, I would have, the younger version of me would have said, you're crazy. I remember opening packs as a young collector, young hobbyist, and, your buddies, hey, let me open one. I'm like, get your own. And so if you would have told me, that, breaking would be like as big as it is, then, you know what I mean? I would have thought you're crazy. I didn't want anyone to open my stuff. I was buy your own box or get your own packs kind of a kid, and just because it was such an adrenaline rush. But the hobby evolves, and that's where we are. Your thoughts kind of on that sentiment?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was a kid, opening even half a box was a big deal. Even, you think back
Yep.
35, 50 cents, and even when Upper Deck came to be in 89, I think they were like $2 a pack or something like that. And it blew your mind that they were that expensive. And, I was a teen then and had access to some part-time farm jobs and summer jobs, things like that. But still buying a box was a big deal. And
Yep.
I lived in a small town and all my friends collected too. And we got together and played some of those dice related games with baseball cards where rolling an 11 was a home run and crazy stuff like that. And it's so crazy before the internet the way we collected.
Yep.
And it was so fun. It was amazing. And going back to that time, I guess it was fun compared to how it is now, but there's so many more tools and resources available to us. And I remember collected the 90 Upper Deck Kevin Moss cards and being excited about the Bo Jackson stuff. And I think as things move on, a lot of people like us will go back to that and focus on that because ultimately they enjoy it more. But the great thing about this hobby is you can collect however you want, whatever you
Yep.
want, whoever you want. And if you're in the right group, like ours tries to be, it can increase that collecting experience far beyond the money you spend or the things you hit or anything. So it's an exciting time to be in the hobby, honestly.
Yeah, a couple points. You made some great points. I want to piggyback off of is something I've said, and you said just the same thing, right? You can change how you hobby anytime you want. You can pivot something you don't get enjoyment like you once did, let's say, or you don't like the way something's going. You can change the way you collect, whether it's a team, a player, what products, what sports you collect, that sort of thing. You can change your. I did a show on Hobby Quick Hits called "You're Your Own Hobby CEO." You don't have, individually, you don't have a board of directors to approve your decisions. That's your own decision, your own wallet. You get to choose to make those kind of decisions with, and it's when you think of it like that. When someone, every once in a while, Ben, I'll get someone to message me like, "Hey, really the hobby's got me down," or "It's not."
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding the same enjoyment I once did. I'm thinking about getting out. I never try to persuade someone, yeah, you should leave. I always say, think of different ways you can still stay in the hobby and do different things, and maybe it'll kind of, rekindle that fire, if you will. And if you've tried everything and it's then maybe if you've exhausted sort of all the angles. But the hobby, like Dr. Beckett says, right, it's the greatest hobby in the world, and maybe you just come at it with a different perspective. That could be a difference maker. So I always try to. It doesn't happen a ton, but when someone does tell me they're leaning that way, I try to talk them off the ledge and maybe, just kind of, hey, there's different ways you can still be active in the hobby, and maybe one of them will sort of, light that fire again. And a lot of times I've gotten follow-up messages like, hey, I'm glad I talked to you. I'm doing this. And, it's better. I'm in a better spot than I was the last time we had a conversation. And so it's a great point by you. And another great point, like we always go back to that nostalgia, right? Like you said, we always kind of remember how we got our start. We never really lose sight of it for the most part. And again, you can go back there depending on whatever you got started with. And, people open vintage wax, and I've done it, and I know, a lot of other people have done it too. And so it's there's a lot of ways to hobby, as you said. All right.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Like the athletes we admire, the Sports Card Shop is changing the game. We're not launching threes, bombing drives, or hitting dingers, but we have built a unique gathering spot for all collectors to trade cards, talk sports, play games, and watch their favorite athletes on the big screens. Yes, we've partnered with Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf, Topps, Fanatics, Pokemon, and others to bring you all the latest in sealed wax and singles. But the Sports Card Shop in New Buffalo, Michigan is much, much more. Our recent expansion brings collectible sneakers, Hot Wheels, and more sports and entertainment memorabilia into the mix. Our new Collector's Cave game room is the perfect place to throw a rip party, bring friends, rip packs, trade cards, play billiards, ping pong, shuffleboard, classic arcade, and Xbox games, all while watching your favorite sport on TV. Visit us at thesportscardshop.com. Follow us on social @_sportscardshop, or better yet, visit us in person to learn about special events, party packages, new products, and everything we're doing for you. The Sports Card Shop, connecting people, sports, and the hobby around the world.
Sports Card Nation has returned with Ben Smith. Talk about Midwest box breaks. You mentioned kind of 2017, kind of coming back strong. But take us to how Midwest Box Breaks was born, and the trajectory to where you are now.
Okay, so I really enjoyed breaks. I mean, I really enjoyed them. So checked out a bunch of great breakers. I was on some eBay breaks, and then I got into like Top Shelf, Buck City, all great guys, and vintage breaks. I love seeing the old stuff too. But next thing I know, I've got a ton of stuff that came in, and I'm like, okay, a lot of this stuff, especially, if you're in random team breaks, things like that, you're like, okay, now what? So I thought, I really enjoy this, and I'm a community, team-oriented person based on my past work experience and business experience stuff. And I thought there's got to be a better way to recycle and reciprocate some of the break-related funds and not have it just flow one way. So, and I was in a couple Facebook groups too that kind of did this stuff too. And I don't do a lot on Facebook now. I don't, there's a lot about it that goes against, what we just talked about that we enjoy about it. And I've had some good experiences on Twitter, but it got in my head to create my own break group, and I couldn't let it go. I could not let it go. And, I went to a Cubs game with Chris from Top Shelf, great guy. I picked his brain a little bit, and it was just this thing that was haunting me that I had to get this going. And I started the group, and the big part about what we do in our break club, and we'll get into some of that stuff too, is that I want it to be full circle. I also feel an obligation if somebody spends money through our group and through our business, I've got an obligation to try to help them, recoup some of those funds for the things they don't want or they decide they want to sell or things like that. And that's really how our Discord started, and some of the other stuff we do the Twitter sales thread. And I'm involved in a selling marketplace called ISO that's just launched recently. But that's a big deal to me that I don't want to. I really have a problem with people that treat the hobby like an ATM. That they're only here to sell. They're only here to sell. One of our most successful threads is the set builder thread, and I sent a guy 5 21 Topps Chrome base cards that are going to complete his set, and he'll get those in the mail in a few days and be tickled to death. And it goes back to what we talked about before. There's so many cheap and sometimes even free ways to enjoy the hobby as a community and work together and network. And that was the thing for me. I'm like, I want to create a solid community. And I've joined groups where, hey, that card's stupid or that's a $3 card. I've been in breaks where people, oh yeah, that guy's not even on the team anymore, or they kind of bash people's PC and things like that. And even outside of the hobby, I hate those environments. And I wanted to create something where everybody, like we talked about, every collector could come in and feel good, feel positive, have somebody to lean on. And that really, when the pandemic hit, it was a big deal. I still get messages from people that say, hey, just letting you know, things were tough during the pandemic and stuff. I watched your videos. I got in some breaks. I joined your Discord. And thank you for what you've created. And it's a nice escape for people that I'll say is healthy, as long as you can, it's like anything, you need to manage and budget yourself, but it's more therapeutic and healthy than, say, going to the bar, drinking, turning to other avenues of escape. And it's a fun, inclusive group, and you get to enjoy sports and the camaraderie, and you see the meetups at National and some of the cool things we've done as a group. And I think that's the thing I get most excited about. And honestly, on a lot of days, John, I don't even consider myself a breaker. I feel like I'm this community manager, facilitator to just bring people together. And it's such a rush to do that and see people make friends, see them meet up through MBB, lean on people. We've done fundraisers for someone that needed help with funeral expenses for a loved one. And you see the stuff that goes on Twitter, as far as the racks and, the other random acts of kindness and the things we do. And that feels so good. And it completes me more than any personal card I could own myself. And I've got, I'm a Yankee guy. I've got some nice Mantles, Maris. I'm a huge Mattingly fan, things like that. But I feel so much better when I see that happen for other people, especially people that are down. I've been through a divorce and things like that. And I know there's times when people feel like they have nobody, and to create a group through something we enjoy where people can come in and relax, escape, and feel good and feel positive. And in some cases, get through the day. So really proud of what we've done in the last, here we are 4.5 years later. We've launched an NFT group. We've got a Discord. We've got a partnership with FanDuel. I've met some amazing people in the hobby. I've met some celebrities. I've worked with some professional athletes, and we do some things with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps here, or the Padres High A affiliate. Their president, Mike Nutter, is in our break group. He loves it. And we change the way people collect, and we also change, their whole hobby outlook. And I love the positive experiences we bring to people. And I'm so much more passionate about it versus, hey, I graded this and it's a 10 and blah, blah, blah. My collection's a little weird in that I like older stuff. I said my favorite player is Mattingly. I don't do much prospecting. I've got some Robert Hassel because he played here in Fort Wayne. But again, that's the thing. Nobody's going to come to me and say, why are you collecting like that? It's, again, it goes back to doing it however you want and enjoying it.
Well, kudos for building that community and being sort of the force behind it. Like you said, listen, there's no shortage of breakers, right? It's that extra value. It's that extra stuff that you build around that, and like you've done, right? And you see, not that they're bad guys, but some people are like you said, it's just sort of a bank account or a way to generate funds for themselves. I mean, it's not illegal, but you've went past that and you wanted to build a community and expand upon it. Like you said, you get that enjoyment from doing something for someone else that may be a little bit down on their luck, if you will. And I agree. I've done a lot of that stuff through this show as well. And hearing you say that, I'm nodding my head because, it's nice. I've gotten stuff too because of the show, truth be told. And I appreciate all those things. But giving back and doing stuff for others, I know it's cliche, but it's really good feeling to know that maybe if you didn't do it or you didn't organize it, it would have never happened, and it was able to happen.
It's crazy. And now, honestly, we'll get some hard hitting stuff here. Have you ever been moved to tears? Because I have a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah, it's
that crazy? Yeah.
I cry. It's funny. I cry more as an older guy than I did.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, no, it is very moving because
Yeah.
you're making an impact, right? You're making a difference. I mean, how many, anytime you get to do that, I don't care how old you are, teenager,
Yeah.
or a young kid, an adult, anytime you can make a difference for somebody in their life, whatever way it might be, through cards or any other way, it is moving. I did a show. I know I've talked about this. It's the first thing that really pops up when I hear stuff, and sometimes you do it indirectly, like doing it on purpose is better,
Yeah.
most, but I did a show where I had my dad on, and we're originally from Brooklyn, New York, and my dad grew up going to Brooklyn Dodger games and Ebbets Field, and so I had him on. I said, how many times, are you going to be able to have someone on a podcast that can like firsthand talk about getting up close with the players and what they were like and what it was like watching the game at Ebbets Field and how were the fans towards Jackie in the early going and how that tide changed. And so I had my dad on. He was right, I had the guy right in my backyard, so to speak, and he got emotional doing the show, but it wasn't my most downloaded show, Ben, but what it was the show I got probably the most feedback. I got emails and direct messages from folks who said, hey, John, I heard the show with your dad. It was a great show. Me and my dad sort of had a falling out. We had a disagreement, an argument. I haven't talked to him. I got like 3 of those. One was like 7 years. One was like double digit, like 10 or 11.
Wow.
And another one was, he said, almost 20 years. And all 3 of them said, after hearing, me talk to my dad and him getting choked up and reminiscing and realize, my dad was 80, he's 84 now, but 83 then. Like, how we don't know how long our dads might be around if they still are. All 3 of those gentlemen that wrote me said they're gonna make the first move, call their dads up, said what are we fighting about? This is stupid. It's not worth it, and sort of try to rebuild those relationships. And so truth be told, when I did that show, I'm not going to lie about it because I had no idea that might be something that occurred from it. That's just a collateral thing. That's a positive, right? Now you have 3 people repairing a relationship with a father. And anytime you hear that, whatever the reason is, from a hobby podcast or whatever causes it to happen, it's just that stuff really moves me. And it's funny, my wife doesn't know much about cards. She's supportive. Don't get me wrong, but I showed her those 3 messages I got. I'm like, check this out from having Pops on. Look what I got. She even said, "Holy smokes, wow!" From doing a baseball card podcast. I said, yeah. You never know. You never know. I guess is kind of bringing this to a close on my you never know whether it's I that says something or a guest on the show that can inspire somebody. You never know who's listening out there and what it might, sort of the ripple that turns into a bigger wave, if you will. And that's that community stuff. And, that's why I take what I do say I never swear on this show. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't swear. I'm just not swearing on this show. And people have said, I appreciate that, John, because I know I can listen to this with my son or daughter in the car and not have to worry about something slipping out and they hear it. And I'm just real cognizant of the effect we can have and the difference we potentially can make. And not every show obviously does things like that, but you just never know when that's going to be. And same.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Zion cases are the best card cases in the hobby. One quick walk around the National or even your local card show will bear that out. Whether it's a case to protect your one single Grail card or to hold and protect many of your precious cards, look no further than the Zion cases. And don't forget, our backpack cases have no equal. Check us out at www.zioncases.com, and remember to use promo code SCN10 to save an additional 10% off your order. Zion Cases, we protect the hobby.
Let's go! You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
With what you're doing with MBB and the community and the outreach and all the stuff you do, looking out for other people, and not only are you helping the person you're helping, but you know others who see that say, "Hey, I want to. What can I do? What can I do?" Like you did that. Can I add to it, or can we go in a different direction? Is someone else we can help as well?
And the crazy thing about that too is that I fall out of the picture, and there's other people doing those things, and I get a lot of credit for the amazing things our community does, but it comes from them. It's our core group and our nucleus. And I've got off days where I'm in a bad mood or I'm not feeling it, and I miss an opportunity, and someone will step up and say, "You know what? Hey, we're going to do this for you, or we're going to do that for other people in the group." And really, honestly, I'll be 48 at the end of the year, but I'd like to build something that can sustain when I'm gone. That something that, and it's so great to see that our core group, and then a layer outside of new people, to set the example for the next round of guys. Wow, look how awesome that was. I want to do that. And I've had people shell out some pretty decent coin to help facilitate, an awesome rack or free spots or charity events, things like that. And it's funny because when things like that happen, you miss it in that moment. And so I've had a few guests on and stuff. Well, I don't know what it was, 2 years ago, something like that. We had Pedro Gomez on from ESPN. And Pedro, we put him in a break. He watched during the break, but he called in and he talked to me and talked to our group for over an hour. And then it wasn't, however long it was after that where he passed away. In our group, it hurt us. We remembered those interactions, that conversation, and very little of that had actually to do with baseball cards. But again, he talked about his love of the game and, relationships with his family and things he's learned through, decades of experience. And again, it comes back to I enjoy that so much more. And if you look, the hobby lived fat in a little bit of 19, big time in 20, and even a little bit last year. And I spent a lot of time on Twitter. You'd be amazed. You get to think about, you're like, what happened to so-and-so? As the money became harder to get or wasn't there, a lot of people disappeared. And you look now at the people that are still there every day, still doing the things they do. And that's, I guess that's why we're here. And I enjoy that. Again, I enjoy that so much more than, we've pulled some big hits. There was a Dominguez that sold at auction, Jason Dominguez 101, sold at auction for like 60 grand, things like that. I've seen some crazy stuff, but the stories that keep within our group longer are, the interviews with Pedro Gomez, the stuff we give away. And I really want people to come to us expecting that versus the screaming and the craziness and the shaking over huge hits and all the sensationalism and the other.
I hate to tell you this. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Not that you do it, but and you said something like, hey, sometimes, someone else will do something and I'll get credit for, but it's really which is humble on your part and modesty. But at the end of the day, Ben, it was your example that kind of maybe that set the tone. And so, while you might not want to pat yourself on the back, I could do it for you. When you do things and other people notice it, that stuff can be contagious. That, that whole ripple into a wave. While it's cliche, there's an element of truth there. So we sometimes don't always want to take the credit. And I'm with you. I get it. But sometimes, out of sight, out of mind, and it's someone seeing someone else, whether it's you, me, or who knows who, do something, and it lights the light bulb up above their head, and they say, hey, I want to do this, or I can do this. And that's all it takes. Someone just leading by example.
And I'll say this too, before we move to the next topic, but there's honestly, Don, there's a hidden message there in everything I do. And sometimes on Twitter, I'll throw up a little meme of, a wink or something. I had a business before, and I've always done something on the side. I was a manager in a factory for almost 20 years before I quit. I quit in May of last year to do this full time. But at one point, my first wife left me with 4 kids, and they were all still in school. And it was literally my rock bottom, and everything fell apart. And the selfish side of this is, at this point where I am in my life, this is my celebration, my return. And the hidden message to people is, no matter what they're going through, divorce and similar situations, you can come back. You can come back. You just have to, and I tell my adult sons this too. You just have to keep working, grinding, doing the right thing. And, I've had, men in similar situations, come to me and, hey, I heard, because I bring it up once in a while. I don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
I've been remarried almost 5 years. She's amazing. Like yours, she doesn't know a lot about the hobby, but she supports me 100%.
Yeah.
She supported the jump to full time. But I want people that feel down and I'll say depressed. People that I want them to know that you can still make it and you can still do it, and you just have to keep going and find people to lean on. So
yeah, the word that comes to mind, perseverance, right? Got to keep going. There's some days you like you said, maybe you hit rock bottom, or you think you hit rock bottom, and you kind of want to give up, but you just got to sort of pick yourself up off the mat, dust yourself off, and just say, tomorrow can't be any worse than today. So let's keep plugging and keep going. And I think everybody has been to some point in that area, in have had a rough day or a rough time, or even more than a day, or a rough couple years, or whatever the time frame may be. But again, you got to just keep going, knowing there's maybe a brighter day around the corner. You just to get there, you got to keep going. If you give up, you'll never know if it was there. And you said, like, even with your divorce and being a single dad with 4 school kids, congrats to you for being there for them and being a dad. And now here you are, like you said, with a great wife, and things have obviously are more positive, and you're sort of paying that forward and trying to be an example, like, hey, listen, I've been there. May not look like it today because I'm in a better spot, but it doesn't mean I don't know sort of kind of how you feel or what you're going through, and to help and outreach and help folks that are in that spot where maybe we were at one point or another. It's always nice to have that ability and kind of be an example. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it in this moment, but things can get better. You just gotta don't give up and keep plugging away. I maybe can help you a little bit in this category or this way, but don't stop trying to improve and get into a better spot. And going to step aside for a real quick break, but we'll be back with more with Ben Smith and Midwest Box Breaks.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
We are back.
You mentioned some of the breakers. I'm not going to mention by name. I don't want to give them any free plugs. We all follow kind of the news, but we've seen some breakers do some unscrupulous things, some underhanded things, some, quite frankly, I've said it on the show, Ben, just downright illegal things and criminal things. And I think what happens, I don't want to speak for you, that's what I'm going to ask you, is sometimes when we see that, maybe not me because I know how this process is, and that one bad breaker is 1%, less than 1% of, breakers who are doing it the right way and above board and doing stuff like you're doing, even going that extra mile. But what some people do is they see that and they just sort of paint the whole niche as, oh, that's what, talk about how that affects you, your thoughts on it, what maybe even if, if you could do something about it, or maybe even like I've said, I want to see the companies, which will pretty much be mostly Fanatics and Upper Deck, that are making these products, right? Panini will include them, obviously. But like, if someone does something unscrupulous, downright criminal, like there should be repercussions for that. They shouldn't be able to do, if I'm in charge of Fanatics, if I'm Michael Rubin, I don't want that person sort of aligned with my product, my brand, my company. So I'd like to see more accountability from the card manufacturers to at least punish, folks that do these kind of things we've seen. Just talk about kind of what, how it affects you when these things pop up, and what if you, if you had a breaking magic wand and can kind of, what you would do or want to see done to change that aspect.
Well, and we've seen this movie before. It starts with, somebody gets busted and there's a tweet about it describing it. And I think, like you said, everybody lumps breakers into this, I guess a dark, sleazy image that they don't like. And I had somebody do this to me at a show once where I was talking to somebody. I said, "Yeah, I do breaks," and the guy next to me, he's like, "Oh, you guys are what's wrong with the hobby today." And I'm like, "Dude, you don't even know me." So I think it does affect us all. In the real business world, if company X, brick and mortar, does something shady and underhanded and gets bad publicity and does something that doesn't goes against their beliefs and principles and what their customers, what's in their best interest, a lot of times they go under, and those customers go somewhere else. And honestly, I don't think you see that in the hobby. And we've all seen the tweets, "Oh, hey, tag your favorite breaker. Let's focus on the positive breakers." I'd love to see the numbers on the people that take that information and go on to somebody else. And I think a big part of it is there's a lot of people that just don't care. They're like, "Yeah, whatever. It didn't happen to me. I'm going to keep breaking at XYZ." And there are so many great breakers that I'm friends with, and I know that I see the hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively a year that they donate to great causes. And I see the same guys still trying to fill their stuff. And it blows my mind. And I don't even care if they come to me. We do a lot of great charity work and things like that too. But there's a saying, how do you kill a clown? You don't laugh at it. The same thing goes with these guys. Stop giving them the attention, the tweets, the retweets, and stop giving them your money. Especially people that treat the hobby like an ATM, that give nothing back, do nothing for the hobby community except take their money. And some of these businesses, honestly, I don't even know if I would call them businesses. Some of these guys, I don't know how they still exist. And again, we're not going to name names, but there's so many great people out there to support. And it just floors me that doesn't happen more. But yeah, when something bad happens, and I read through the threads, and they lump all breakers in that category, and it's like, no, dude. And I don't, in our group, I've opened packs off camera and posted the results in Discord for guys from stuff they hit. And I hit a Mattingly 1-of-1 at a stadium club, my PC. I said, "Hey, congrats, you hit this Mattingly." And, Houdini, Cheap Fun Breaks, Crack and Wax, the Buck City guys, so many leaders and upstanding members of the hobby that give back. And those guys should be just buried in break customers and cards to rip, because they're such good people. And, these other guys, guys threatening their employees on camera, people objectifying women, people flat out stealing. It's
turned into the old days WWE.
Yeah.
Just all, so, but go ahead.
So, well, here's your answer, because I'm pretty serious about this. Here's your answer. if these guys are going to get their product from wherever they're getting them from, they agree and they sign paperwork that they'll uphold a code of conduct, and they can be punished and cut off if they're in violation. The other side of that too is, and this was one of my, this is an item on my roadmap for our Break Club group, and is a collector advocacy group. I'd like to create a group that can help the collectors and take problems in the hobby to company XYZ. Hey, I represent 10,000 members. What are you doing about situation X, or what are you doing for this? And I know, like, the summit and some things at National and some of these other industry meetings have made great strides to make the hobby better. But I think a lot of people think they don't have a voice. And I think a lot of people, when they see something they don't like in the hobby, they don't push as hard as they should, because I'll compare it to this. When people, and this isn't political because I don't do politics. You remember back in the day, the Facebook posts that, hey, let's nobody buy gas today, and you laugh because you're like, yeah, right, that's going to happen. Because and it's the same thing when I was in a union environment. Hey, if they do this, here's what we're going to do. It's not going to happen, because if one guy says, no, I'm done, I'm drawing the line, there's 10 guys pushing him out of the way so they can get to it. And that's the same thing with collecting, with breaks from bad breakers, subpar hobby products. And as soon as they say no, everybody else, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think if we stuck together and fought a little harder and were a little bit more vocal and organized, I think we could make some great strides. But again, we've got people that aren't in it for that. They aren't in it for the hobby. It's about, how much am I going to make off of XYZ? And that's their thing. And if that's how they want to participate, that's on them, because it is an ecosystem and everybody plays a role. But those are some of the things I'd like to see change. I'd like to see us more organized as collectors.
I loved a lot of. I agree. There was nothing I disagreed there, Ben, and I even love the idea of having almost like a breakers group where
I'd sign it right now.
Yeah, and where there can be a mediation between that breaking group and the card companies, whether it be Fanatics, Upper Deck, and Panini, whatever, whoever wants to get involved, where that group can say, hey, this, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, but so and so's not, and then someone from the card company can have even someone dedicated to following up on that, checking it out. I mean, all this stuff's on video. It's not going to take a long time. With all the card detectives, it's all over. It's blowing up all over the internet. So it's there for them to find. And then, like you said, like I said, for that card company to say, you know what, well, you're not getting any product direct from us. Yeah. And even go further than that, Ben, because you know how this works. If me and you were in cahoots and we're both breakers and you get suspended from Fanatics, then you just say, John, hey, can you get me the stuff through you and feed me?
Yeah.
I would take it a step further that not only, are they suspended, but anyone who sells our product to them to sort of try to circumvent that, you're jeopardizing your own ability to buy from us. And I think if they did that, it would go a long way.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
We are back with Ben Smith from Midwest Box Breaks. It's amazing when someone does something unscrupulous or downright illegal, how there's no accountability. I just think the hobby's so large that there's a percentage that don't even know about it, which is hard to believe, but I think those people exist. And then, like you said, I think there's another percent, a higher percentage that knows about it and just, I don't really care. It didn't affect me. It wasn't me they got. Instead of thinking, hey, if they did that to someone else, guess what? they can do it to me too. It just wasn't me this time.
So the perfect example of that, John, is when someone tweets about a scammer and it gets no retweets. That just makes my blood boil, because the guy that doesn't retweet it, that could happen to you next, and you can bet they're going to tag everybody under the sun wanting to retweet because they got scammed. Yet when it happened to somebody else, it gets 13 retweets. And I mean, people should be all over that. And it's so frustrating to see it. You know, if you steal one time, you should be done. Just absolutely done.
Yeah. And then, no, listen, you know, if I heard a card, now they haven't really made any comments along these lines, but, you know, if I ever heard a card company say, hey, we want people to do stuff the right way, but, you know, we're not the judge, jury, executioner, you know, and we need the business. We can't keep turning. There's plenty of people who will give you the business. You're not going to not sell something because you put your foot down and said, hey, you did something wrong. You're not getting product from us. You know, whether it be permanently, like you mentioned, which I sort of agree with, or even you put a time, hey, first offense, you're a year without direct privileges. If it happens again, it's 5 years. If it happens, the old 3 strikes, you're out. You're gone permanently. And again,
what if there was a database that you could access where you could look up breaker XYZ and, oh, hey, 6 months ago, you know, they were accused of, you know, whatever. It's something to think about.
It's not. I don't want to make it like it's easy, but it's also not as with all the sleuths and detectives and people retweeting and posting videos. Hey, did you see this? This happened in this break room. It's not hard to build a case. You know, it's just like, and again, innocent, but you know, until proven guilty, right? But once that evidence is presented, that takes that innocent tag away, then there should be repercussions. But right now, like we both talked about, there really isn't none. I mean, I'm sure there's some people like me or you that say, I'm just not even going to ever do business with someone like that. But there's not enough of that, unfortunately. I've always said on this show, right? We have power. It's in our wallets. And not just with bad breakers, but even the companies themselves, if they're not doing stuff the right way and you don't support it, right? You don't have to buy the products. But sometimes I don't think we use, I'll just speak in general terms, the hobby in general. We just don't wield that power. And whether it's the trying to get that last dollar and squeeze, I just don't think enough people care to really kind of band together and say enough's enough, right? Let's take our hobby back, so to speak. But maybe the winds will change here with sort of that crescendo sort of leveling out. And now, like you said, you're getting more of like people who aren't just in for dollar signs and more in it for the long haul. Like, hey, I'm going to be in this hobby, whether it's booming or it's not booming. I was in it before that started, and I'm still going to be here, whether it's like that or not. That's not why I'm here. Maybe enough of those folks will, get the job done. We'll see. The landscape is changing, as you know yourself, not by the day, but by the day, not by the year, but by the day. And so hopefully we see some positive changes along those lines. As someone who breaks and stuff, kind of your thoughts on Fanatics sort of taking over 3 of the 4 major sports. Your thoughts on that and how that might affect you on a personal level.
I've had it's been a roller coaster of emotions ever since the initial big announcement. There is a fear that somebody like me could be squeezed out, and some of my friends who do a lot of great things in the hobby. And I guess there's a part of me that says, well, let's see what happens. But there's also from the business standpoint, the part of my brain that says, wow, how can I get out in front of this? And, even as things have slowed down a little bit, I think people think you just show up on camera and open cards. If you're treating this like, a full-blown actual business, I mean, there's the ordering, there's the pre-ordering, there's the reordering, there's the shipping side, there's the marketing standpoint of it, there's the labor-related stuff, the banking side of it, and there's so much, there's the R&D, the investment in your own business and the things like that, to be in a position where you don't know what's going to happen is pretty scary. And I'm not usually somebody that lets things happen to them. And so I've tried to, try to get the landscape and hear, read the tea leaves or whatever you want to say. And I've had conversations with people and stuff. I think there are definitely some things that are changed for the good. I really see this in two phases. I see what they come out and do, and then I see that doesn't look like it's going to work out. Let's redo. I think the first version of this new landscape won't be the last, and I think they'll put it out there, see the parts that don't work. Maybe it takes a year, and then kind of review it. My frustration across the entire hobby, especially with the big companies too, is I think sometimes you get people in there that aren't collectors. And if I owned a gigantic card company or whatever, I think that would be one of my requirements if I was doing the hobby or doing the hiring. I want to see people that are collectors and know what it's like to be a collector, know what it's like to be disappointed as a collector, know what makes a collector tick. And I think we don't always get that. I think there are some positive things coming. I think, it's tough to sift through all the rumors and I'll say lies and stuff that's just put out there. And you've seen the videos and you've seen the tweets and some of the stuff. I think there's people out there not in the know that think they are. But I guess there's a part of me, because for as big as this hobby is, and, there's been times where I really liked my presence in the hobby. But then when you take a step back, you realize just how small you are. And the number I would throw out to whoever, as far as, what we bring in and what we generate a year and things like that, they'd probably laugh me out the door. And, there's huge Facebook groups and there's so many. So it really comes down to, I think, who is going to get these decision makers' attention and be part of, the new landscape. And that's kind of where it's at. And also, I think, there's a saying, adapt or die. And I really have tried to, we're talking about collecting, but from a business standpoint, use the term diversify. I've really tried to put my hands in a lot of things. We've created the NFT group. We're involved in the selling platforms and things like that. I think I've become less of a breaker. And like I said in the beginning, more of a community manager and a facilitator, provider of hobby resources for a full service hobby, concierge or whatever. But I need to be part of this new landscape and the change and the future. And I've had some conversations, and I think we're going to be okay. But you never know. Yep. I had a successful business, back before the divorce and that whole thing where, one day, the people making decisions just decided to go a different direction. And it's just, there's a saying, a rug just literally, yep. And next thing you know, you're like, oh crap, Yep. And it's crazy. You look at where we were 2 years ago, and the major players and the big movers and the guys that were innovating, creating all this stuff, some of them have gone under already. Some of them are out of business. And you're like, what the hell happened? And you look at their business model, and they were set up for one pace of the hobby and one, all it took was a year or less, and they're done. They completely closed their doors. And that's what happens when you're focused on one piece. And that was, the part of the hobby that is 95% profit and 5% collecting or even less. And they're gone. They're just flat out gone.
I love all the points you made, right?
Time to hear from one of our great sponsors, but Sports Card Nation will be right back after that.
Introducing the only auction house dedicated exclusively to the cards of the 1990s. Josh Adams and John Linden have created an auction company solely for the rare, scarce, and hard-to-find inserts and parallels of the 1990s. Whether it be basketball, baseball, football, or hockey, 90s auctions will have it. Each auction will consist of smaller lots between 100 and 120 lots, so your cards won't get lost in the shuffle. Founded on the principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity, 90s auction was created by collectors for collectors. Register and consign today at 90sauctions.com. That's 90 little s auctions.com.
Let's go.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast.
A lot of these businesses, listen, let's keep it real, right? They were born of the boom. And I kind of came in during those times thinking, like, hey, this is what the hobby's going to be from now to a long time from now. Well, that's not, if you've been in the hobby a long time or long enough, it's like any business. It's like a graph, right? You got some really great, it's like the economy in general, right? Look at a graph of the U.S. or anyone's economy, but specifically the U.S., you can see years where it's booming, and you got your troughs, your recession areas, and then your regrowth. It's going to be like that in almost every industry. There's very few industries that don't have that sort of trajectory. So to kind of come in on the boom years and think like that's all you're going to have to deal with and just print out your own money whenever you want, just short-sighted. Like you said, that's why they're not here. Either they're not here or they're really kind of scratching and clawing to sort of keep alive and keep afloat. And then, you use a great, business term, adapt or die, right? It sounds kind of simple, but sometimes it's as simple as that. You need to sort of adjust for different times. It's like, I'm a football, I used to coach football, right? You can have a game plan, but so does the other team. And when they change what they do, we have to adjust what we do. If we only have one game plan and just that's all we're going to run, and then when the things change on the other side, and we're like you said, you're going to die. You're gonna lose. So you have to think along those lines. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and I was warned too when I first came into this, and I could tell, hey, I'm going to be successful at this, and was gearing towards the leap to full time. I was lucky to have two mentors with each over 30 years experience that told me, hey, listen, there was a time like 2013 where we couldn't sell anything, and you need to be prepared for that dip. And as I've kind of seen things slow a little bit and it's got tougher, and some of the issues with logistics and the release of products and stuff like that hasn't made it any easier. But for as well as I did in 19, 20, 21, I kept that back for this time now, so I could focus on building and growing. And hell, we didn't even make a profit, I think, the first 6-8 months. But then once we did, I mean, I kept it back, kind of the rainy day. And I'm kind of in that period now where, when the product releases had issues and there were challenges and the economy and whatever you want to use as an example, it's like, all right, now I can kind of relax a little bit. I'll break less, I'll push less, and focus on building other things. But again, it goes back to that, in my head, I'll be like, hey, where'd so-and-so go? And you look for them on Twitter and they haven't tweeted in 4 months. Yeah. And, they were a weekly big time player in the hobby and investor guru. And it's funny, some of the guys that are gone in like the businesses we talked to had really deep pockets and they had investors behind them. And to just say, no, we're done. And I think somebody could have taken that and said, all right, I could do this with it for the hobby and get through this. And I think they just said, nope, let's go on to the next thing that we think is the trend. And, jokes on them, I guess. And happy trails, I guess, is what I'd say to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to kind of finish, the topic out, and I wanted you to give out where people can see what you're doing. I just hope Fanatics. There's a lot of smart people in that room. That's a fact. Whether you like what the landscape is doing, they do have a lot of smart people. I hope those people are heard. But in turn, I hope Fanatics listens to the smart people in the hobby, and from all phases, not just breaking, but just all facets. Because the hobby is going to be their lifeblood, right? And without them, I know Fanatics does other stuff, but they're really taking a big plunge into this thing. I hope they listen to the people who are paying some of their bills with buying their products. Again, with the breaking aspect, I heard they're starting a breaking division, but I hope that's more than just I actually love the direct-to-consumer model. I'm sorry, distributors, but I do love it. But at the same time, I just hope like we talked about already, that there are some rules, and when someone, rules and morals, and when someone doesn't live up to those, that there's repercussions. Because if there isn't, it doesn't matter that there's a division. If there's no, if you can do whatever you want to, then you really don't have sort of a privilege or a division. It's called anarchy, and history tells us that doesn't end well most of the time. So I hope they do. I hope and you made a great point when you were talking, Ben. Not everything they do is going to be right. They're going to make mistakes. So if we're going into that thinking this is everything, it's going to be the Midas touch, we're fooling ourselves. But like baseball, like anything, you hope there's more hits than misses. You hope there's more smart calls than dumb ones. And I think if there are, the hobby maybe can get even to a better place. But if it's the other way, frustrations can mount. But you're doing it, you care. I think that's very apparent in how you conduct yourself and Midwest Box Breaks. I want to thank you for joining the program. I had a great time discussing all this stuff with you. And so take your time. You got all the time you need. Where people can find your website, Discord, all that stuff you talked about, where people can check out what you're doing, which is the right way, if you ask me.
Okay, so it starts at the website, MidwestBoxBreaks.com, and you can use coupon code MBB10 for 10% off your first break. If it's your first time, I'm going to put extra stuff in your first mail day. I encourage you to show up in the YouTube chat a couple nights a week. YouTube is just Midwest Box Breaks. You can search it. Twitter is at Midwest Box Break, and I'm looking for people that enjoy cards, enjoy collecting, and picture an environment where you're in the break room at work with your buddies talking cards, and you hang out, you be comfortable. It's all inclusive. We've got everybody from all walks of life, every budget. I can get you in a lot of times as cheap as $10. We've got a Discord break club, which is amazing. The things I talked about, like the collector advocacy group, the set builder stuff. We're kind, generous, caring collectors that look out for each other. And that link is posted a lot of times. I'm a DM away. I see every DM. I see every message. If it's spammy, maybe I don't answer. But anyway, I'm a DM away. We love meeting new people. And again, we're looking for people that enjoy the hobby. And again, the difference between our group is, there's two sides of it. We're going to try to put you in a position to sell and move your unwanted cards too, and keep you in the game at a reasonable price point within your budget. So we're passionate about collecting. I work for you. That's my mentality. So whatever you need, we're here for you as a group and me specifically. So John, I appreciate it, man. It's awesome to be on here, and I hope some people get a lot out of this.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, these are all important topics. I don't, it doesn't matter even if you don't buy into breaks, right? It's the long-term viability of the hobby we love, right? That's just one important facet of it, and you care. I think that there's no one that in their right mind that I'll even say this, that listens to either one of us and says, those two guys don't care. If you take that from this conversation, play it again. I don't know what's going on there, but we care. And there are a lot of people that care. I just hope, the people at the top, like I said, there are a lot of smart people. I hope enough of them care and to really think about their approach and what they want to do and how they want to build their brand and what they want to stand for. A lot of stuff you said were great ideas with like a board to sort of oversee and sort of kind of weed out people not doing it the right way, that there's accountability and repercussions. And those companies should want that. I know, it's easy for me to say, but I would want to align with people doing it the right way rather than the wrong way. I think nothing good comes about aligning yourself with the wrong people, at least not in the end. Maybe at first, but I think karma always gets you sort of in the end.
Yeah, I would say the challenge too for Joe Hobby, every collector that's out there, and Joanne Hobby, got a lot of great female collectors in our group too. Yeah. So shout out to them. I would say be more particular with where your money's going, just like out there everywhere else. if you don't feel respected and you don't feel like you're being taken seriously, speak with your wallet. Support the people that support the hobby, and the bad boys and the players that are out here just to bleed the hobby dry. Get away from. Don't retweet. Don't support. Hell, don't even follow. Go focus on the good people in the hobby, and those other ones, will be gone. And take your money. I mean, people bust their butt for their money, and this is their play money. This is their expendable income. Hopefully, it's their expendable income. But put it to work for you and get the most out of it. Get the most out of every dollar.
Yeah, well said, Ben. You're doing it the right way. You're setting the example for someone who cares and wants to give back. And a lot of people could take a page out of your book and do it the right way. So keep on doing what you're doing. Everyone else got to, what they do is up to them. But like you said, we can speak too when those things happen. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Check out Midwest Box Breaks, everybody. Doing so many different things, not just breaking cards, as Ben said. There's a lot more going on. He's built a community, and it's getting bigger every day. So thanks, Ben.
Thank you, John.
All right, want to thank Ben Smith there for coming on the show. There's a guy that cares about the hobby, cares about his clientele, customer base, and cares about people in general. He's built a community rather than a business or community along with his business. And again, everything above board, and just wants the hobby to be the best it can be. So check Midwest Box Breaks out. Take another quick break, and I'll be back with closing thoughts.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
That's a wrap on another edition of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Thank you to all the awesome listeners out there. Without you, there is no us. Thank you to all our great guests who drive this show, and also our wonderful sponsors who help us produce the great hobby content every week. Remember, another Hobby Quick Hits episode drops every Monday, and Sports Card Nation returns again next Friday. If you like the shows, we appreciate those positive reviews. Be well, and always remember, the hobby is the people.